Let's talk about heart rate training or training with heart rate versus I don't look at, gosh, I was talking to someone recently. I only train at heart rate. Oh, it was on a bike.
Hmm.
I said, do you have a power meter? They said, no, this is an elite athlete. I don't have a power meter. You don't? I felt silly asking and like
Yeah,
made him embarrassed. You don't have a power meter?
yeah,
How do you determine where you are and how you're able to maintain a certain effort on your bike during a half Ironman, for example? He goes, I go on heart rate.
hmm
Pros and cons.
yeah. Before power meters, heart rate was super popular, and it's still a really helpful metric. Um, and I'll just throw this out as a prompt to remind me. Heart rate recovery is a big element that continues to keep heart rate at the forefront of training technology. So moving away from that, one problem we have with heart rate training, particularly with endurance athletics, like triathlons and cycling events, is that there's this concept called CV drift. And as you exercise for an extended period of time, you're going to sweat. That water is coming from somewhere. Typically, that's going to be coming from blood plasma. So your overall blood volume is going to drop. If you're in really hot conditions, that's going to happen even faster. So what you'll see is that over an extended period of time, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, longer,
Hmm.
you're going to see at the exact same speed, heart rate start to drift up. Now, let's say, for instance, you're using heart rate to guide your training. You say, okay, I want to be within X zone.
Yeah.
Well, as your heart rate starts to experience this CV drift thing, you start slowing down to keep your heart rate. Now, all of a sudden, you started at 20 miles an hour and you're backed off to 19, and then you backed off to 18, whatever. Now, that could still be helpful from a physiological standpoint. You could still getting a good training effect, but power meters and GPS watches allow people to more objectively, I guess, prescribe the exercise workload. So the perspective shifts to, I want to maintain X number of watts for 3 hours.
Hmm.
I don't care what's happening to my heart rate, because now my body has been subjected to this very consistent training load versus one that I'm modulating. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, heart rate training could still be very, very effective, very, very effective. But in extended situations, and especially when you've got hot, humid types of conditions, heart rate is not going to be stable for a long period of time. It's going to experience a CV drift. Now, if someone knows when that drift's going to occur, how much, they could still use just heart rate and probably gauge a bike pace or a run pace accurately, because I've been here before. I know that at mile 13, my heart rate's 5 beats per minute when I started. I mean, they could do that, but if they expect it to be stable the entire time for something that like a half marathon, half iron, anything like that, yeah, they're crazy. It's not going to happen.
And the factors I know that help determine heart rate, whether it's going to be a CV drift or not, is hydration, nutrition,
Hmm.
fitness level.
Yeah, and sleep, stress,
Hmm.
recovery from previous workouts. Those things have a pretty dramatic effect on heart rate.
One technique that Roger knows about that I did at Ironman Arizona last year,
Hmm.
and it was purely a heart rate technique, was walking the aid stations, watching my heart rate, and then watching it drop to a certain number, and then go back to running again. And the next one drop, and then I was able to have a lower heart rate overall average
Hmm.
because I didn't let it
Sure.
peak. So I was running, and I came down to a transition or a water station, let it drop to, let's say, 150, and then I got back to running, and then I went up to 168, 170. Okay, I'm gonna stay there. Now I'm gonna drop down again, and it helped recovery. It was a recovery technique.
Sure.
And is that something you would prescribe? Because you also have, I hope I don't bulldoze you here,
Yeah.
this 5-in-1 theory for running a marathon or a half marathon.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say you can do the walk run in whatever intervals you want, whether it be 5-1 or if you're an Ironman, you're walking every aid station, which is every mile.
Hmm.
Whatever an individual wants. I think that's going to help out with an overall perception of fatigue, and certainly will allow for some recovery during the event, regardless of what those intervals are. I think that's really, really helpful. It kind of comes down to what's the performance someone's wanting to elicit.
Yeah.
Does it work for them? Does it not work for them? The heart rate piece, while that could tie in with that, almost speaks to something a little bit different in the sense that how quickly your heart rate will come down
Hmm.
following some sort of exercise bout will help speak to how fit you are. So, I mean, there's a variety of VO2 max estimation style tests that physical educators will use and stuff, like the step test. And they basically want people to take their pulse following the exercise bout, and they want to see over an extended period of time what's going on, how fast is that coming back down towards resting, and that we're going to have this calculation that estimates then your aerobic fitness based on that. So you could use heart rate in that context of saying, I know that when my heart rate comes down to a certain level during the walking, that's when it's time for me to go.
Okay.
Versus I'm just going to walk for 30 seconds, or I'm just going to walk for the length of the aid station or whatever it is. So it could be a helpful metric to look at if that's what you wanted to guide the intervals and the rests.